Kaliningrad, Russia, date uncertain. Sunday visitors enjoy an amusement park in the city formerly known as Königsberg. The German city became Soviet territory after World War II, its population replaced entirely. Amusement parks provided leisure for new residents in this drastically transformed Baltic port. New York City, 1930s. Central Park appears on a winter night with snow covering the urban landscape. The beloved park provided green space amid Manhattan's concrete density. Depression-era New Yorkers sought free recreation despite economic hardship. Central Park remained a democratic space for all classes. United States, 1970s. A man disrupts a Ku Klux Klan protest, confronting white supremacists. Counter-protesters increasingly challenged KKK rallies during this era. Civil rights victories empowered resistance to racial hatred. Such confrontations demonstrated shifting social attitudes toward organized racism and bigotry throughout America. Manila, Philippines, February 1945. The Japanese destroyer Akishima lies sunk by American aircraft in Manila Harbor. Allied forces liberated the Philippines through fierce fighting. Naval and air superiority enabled American victory. The Japanese garrison fought desperately, devastating Manila before their eventual defeat. San Francisco, California, 1937. The Golden Gate Bridge appears under construction before its completion. The massive suspension bridge took 4 years to build. 11 workers died during construction. The iconic span opened in May 1937, becoming one of the world's most recognizable structures. Hollywood, 1953. Audrey Hepburn poses with Humphrey Bogart on the Sabrina set. The romantic comedy paired the legendary actor with the rising star. Bogart was 54, Hepburn was 24. Their on-screen chemistry masked off-screen tensions during the difficult production. Austria, 1870. Helene Baltazzi poses for a photograph during the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Wealthy families commissioned formal portraits documenting their status. Such images preserved aristocratic culture before World War I destroyed Europe's old order. Photography captured vanishing worlds for future generations to study. Norway, 1979. Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford relax on the Empire Strikes Back set. The Star Wars sequel filmed in freezing Norwegian conditions. Their on-screen romance mirrored a brief off-screen affair. The film became one of cinema's most beloved sequels, defining science fiction for generations. Kaliningrad, Russia, date uncertain. The German cruiser Königsberg appears in the harbor of the city formerly bearing the same name. Königsberg became Soviet Kaliningrad after World War II. German military history remained visible despite political transformation. The Baltic port's identity shifted completely under Soviet control. Germany, October 1938. American aviator Charles Lindbergh receives the Commanding Cross from Hermann Goering. Lindbergh's acceptance of Nazi honors generated controversy. His isolationist politics and apparent Nazi sympathies damaged his reputation. The meeting symbolized troubling Western appeasement before World War II's outbreak. Italy, World War I. A trench appears on the karst front on Mount Hamada's side. Italian and Austro-Hungarian forces fought brutal mountain warfare. The rocky terrain made digging trenches extremely difficult. Soldiers endured terrible conditions fighting for minimal territorial gains throughout the brutal campaign. Malaya, 1942. An unidentified Japanese army officer serves during the Malayan campaign, likely attached to the first independent anti-tank company. Japanese forces rapidly conquered Malaya, forcing British retreat. Singapore fell within weeks in one of Britain's worst military disasters, shocking the empire. Eastern Front, 1914-1917. Russian pilots wear winter masks protecting against extreme cold at high altitude. The Eastern Front saw brutal winter warfare. Aviation remained primitive but strategically important. Pilots endured freezing temperatures in open cockpits while conducting reconnaissance and combat missions throughout the campaign. Britain, early 1900s. A woman chases a man on a penny-farthing bicycle with a stick to jam the wheel and trip him, captured on blurred glass negatives showing their speed. The playful photograph suggests courtship ritual or staged comedy. Victorian leisure included elaborate physical games. New York City, February 1939. Police fight to rip a flag from an anti-Nazi protester at the German-American Bund rally in Madison Square Garden. 20,000 Nazi sympathizers gathered inside while protesters demonstrated outside. The Bund collapsed after Pearl Harbor brought America into war against Germany. Dessau, Germany, March 1945. A German woman cries among rubble after Allied air raids devastated the city. Strategic bombing killed hundreds of thousands of German civilians. The photograph captures individual tragedy amid total war. Allied air campaigns reduced Germany and cities to ruins before final victory. Russia, September 1941. Soldiers of the Italian 9th Division, Pasubio, attacked Petrokauka train station during Operation Barbarossa. Italian forces supported Germany's Soviet invasion. Unprepared for Russian winter and fierce resistance, Axis armies eventually suffered catastrophic defeats across the Eastern Front's vast expanse. United States, 1956. A woman recalls getting her new bathing suit when her aunt took them to the backyard to sit in the sun. Such simple summer pleasures defined post-war suburban life. Family snapshots preserved everyday moments that became cherished memories across generations. Britain or United States, late 1890s or very early 1900s. Glass negatives show a little boy and his dog. Surprisingly, the dog held its pose well despite slight blur. Early photography required subjects to remain still. Such portraits documented childhood and beloved pets for Victorian families. Florida, February 1926. Oswald Mosley, future founder of British Union of Fascists, Franklin Roosevelt, future US President, and Lady Cynthia Mosley fished together. The photograph captures an ironic moment before their divergent political paths. Roosevelt championed democracy while Mosley embraced fascism, becoming bitter enemies. New Jersey, 1935. Charles Lindbergh testifies at the trial of Richard Hauptmann, accused of kidnapping and murdering his son. The sensational case captivated America. Hauptmann was convicted and executed despite maintaining innocence. The tragedy destroyed Lindbergh's privacy and shaped American kidnapping laws. Brighton, England, 1978. Roger Daltrey poses with the Quadrophenia cast. The Who's frontman starred in the film adaptation of the band's rock opera about mod youth culture. The movie captured 1960s Brighton youth rebellion, becoming a cult classic defining British subculture on screen. Turkish Coast, 1950s. A seaside photograph captures a found Turkish gem from the era. Mediterranean coastal towns attracted tourists seeking sun and relaxation. Turkey's coastline offered beautiful beaches and ancient history. Such photographs preserved mid-century leisure culture before mass tourism transformed these quiet communities. Austro-Hungarian Navy, World War I Admiral Dragutin Prica served as the last commander of SMS Viribus Unities and first commander of the Yugoslavian Navy. The battleship was transferred to the new South Slavic state before being sunk. Prica's career spanned empire's collapse and new nation's birth. United States, 1970s. Actress Catherine O'Hara poses early in her career before achieving fame on SCTV and in films. The Canadian comedic performer demonstrated remarkable range throughout decades of work. Her collaborations with director Tim Burton made her a beloved character actress across generations. Russia, 1942. German soldiers butcher a horse to feed hungry troops during the brutal Eastern Front campaign. Supply lines collapsed during Soviet winter. Starvation killed thousands of Axis soldiers. Desperate measures kept armies functioning. The photograph documents warfare's dehumanizing desperation and survival's brutal necessities. Italy, World War I Oberleutnant Albin M. Laker conquered Fort Casa Ratti on Mount Simon during mountain warfare. Austro-Hungarian and Italian forces fought brutal alpine campaigns. Specialized mountain troops conducted dangerous assaults at extreme altitude. Individual heroism was celebrated despite the conflict's industrial scale and mass casualties. Lake City, Colorado, 1895. Miners prospect for gold in the hills during the Colorado Gold Rush. There's gold in those hills captured frontier dreams of wealth. Mining towns boomed and busted rapidly. Prospectors endured harsh conditions chasing fortunes. Few struck it rich despite hardship and danger. New York, 1956. The shallow grave of 1-month-old Peter Weinberger kidnapped for ransom. Police asked media to delay reporting for 24 hours. After reporters swarmed the drop-off site ignoring police, the kidnapper abandoned Weinberger to die. The tragedy led to federal kidnapping legislation. Korea, summer 1950. United States soldiers marching north to the front line past civilian refugees fleeing south in single file. The Korean War displaced millions of civilians caught between advancing and retreating armies. Refugees suffered terribly throughout the brutal three-year conflict's shifting battle lines. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, February 1897. The Pennsylvania state capitol is destroyed by fire. The new state house was dedicated 9 years later on the same site. Arson was suspected but never proven. The replacement building became an architectural landmark, still serving as Pennsylvania's capitol today. Military front, date uncertain. A machine gun squad marches to new positions carrying their weapons. Infantry movements required constant repositioning of firepower. Machine guns provided devastating defensive capability. Soldiers endured exhaust. In marches transporting heavy equipment across difficult terrain under combat conditions throughout modern warfare. Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts, late 19th century. The Martha's Vineyard community has served as a historic retreat for Black elites since the 1800s. Owning a summer home here, particularly a rare gingerbread cottage, established social status. The community preserved Black prosperity and culture despite pervasive racism. Vienna, Austria, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and wife Sophie Chotek ride in a carriage. Their assassination in Sarajevo 3 months later triggered World War I. Sophie's morganatic status meant she faced constant protocol humiliation. Their deaths plunged Europe into catastrophic 4-year conflict, killing millions. Atlantic Ocean, 1920. Passengers dance in the ballroom of transatlantic Italian ship Saturnia. Ocean liner travel represented luxury and glamour during the golden age of passenger ships. Such vessels provided elegant transportation before airplanes made them obsolete. First-class accommodations rivaled finest hotels worldwide. Mitajiri, Japan, 1928. Japanese battleships Fuso foreground, Nagato center, and Mutsu background appear at anchor. Japan built a powerful navy rivaling Western powers. These ships would fight in World War II. Nagato survived the war, later destroyed during atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll. Toronto, Ontario, February 1926. 4 dancers pose close together in snow. The unusual winter photograph captures performers braving cold conditions. Such artistic images challenged conventional photography. Toronto's cultural scene embraced modernist experimentation during the Roaring Twenties despite conservative social attitudes prevailing across Canada. Aachen, Germany, October 1944 and 2024. An iconic street fighting scene from the Battle for Aachen appears photographed 80 years apart. The comparison shows wartime devastation and post-war reconstruction. Aachen was the first German city captured by Allies. The battle left it heavily damaged. Djibouti, February 1976. The original GIGN team, an elite French tactical unit, liberated hostages. The successful operation established GIGN's reputation for counter-terrorism expertise. French special forces developed sophisticated tactics for hostage rescue. The unit became one of the world's most respected tactical teams. North Africa, 1942. Italian M1340 tanks of the 133rd Armored Division, Littorio, operate in the Desert Campaign. Italian armor proved inadequate against British tanks. Mechanical failures and poor design limited effectiveness. Axis forces faced eventual defeat despite individual soldiers' courage throughout the North African theater. Mississippi, 1955. Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam pose after being acquitted of murdering 14-year-old Emmett Till. The all-white jury's verdict outraged the nation. The killers later confessed to Look magazine. Till's murder became a catalyst for the civil rights movement's intensification. United States, 1940. Women practice archery, demonstrating physical fitness and recreational sports. Archery enjoyed popularity as both competitive sport and leisure activity. Women's athletics expanded during this era despite continued gender discrimination. Such activities challenged traditional feminine stereotypes throughout American society. Chicago, Illinois, February 1926. Harold Red Grange is met by his brother Garland Grange at Northwestern Rail Station. The football legend revolutionized professional sports, proving athletes could achieve celebrity status and commercial success. Grange transformed football from amateur pastime to lucrative professional entertainment industry. Italy, World War II. A wounded paratrooper from the elite Folgore Regiment receives help from a comrade. Italian airborne forces fought with distinction despite inadequate equipment and support. The division suffered heavy casualties in North Africa and later defending Italy. Soldiers demonstrated courage amid doomed campaigns. Austro-Hungarian Empire, World War I. Soldiers engage in difficult mountain climbing during Alpine warfare. The Italian front saw brutal fighting across treacherous terrain. Specialized mountain troops conducted operations at extreme altitude. Avalanches and weather killed thousands alongside combat. The harsh environment tested human endurance limits. Georgia, 1864. Color bearers of the 7th Illinois pose with Henry repeating rifles purchased with re-enlistment bonuses, used effectively at the Battle of Allatoona Pass. Superior Union firepower helped secure victory. Such weapons provided devastating advantage over Confederate forces throughout the Civil War's final campaigns. Hollywood, Golden Age. The question asks about underrated performances from cinema's classic era. Many brilliant actors delivered overlooked work despite the period's legendary stars. Film history continues rediscovering forgotten performances. Critical re-evaluation reveals complexity in films once dismissed or underappreciated by contemporary audiences. Portugal, date uncertain. GNR officer cadets pose during training for the Garda Nacional Republicana. Portugal's national gendarmerie. Military and police forces required rigorous preparation. Such photographs documented institutional training, preserving law enforcement traditions. The GNR continues serving Portugal today with paramilitary police responsibilities. Geneva, Switzerland, circa 1920. Photographer Charles Camille Lacroix captures Parc des Bastions. The Swiss city maintained neutrality during World War I, becoming a haven for refugees and diplomats. Geneva's parks provided peaceful public spaces. The city would later host the League of Nations headquarters. New York, 1950. Robert De Niro poses with his mother as a young child before becoming one of cinema's greatest actors. His mother was a painter. De Niro's intense method acting would define American cinema for decades. The photograph captures future greatness in an ordinary moment. Brazil, 1979. A little girl refuses to greet the last Brazilian military dictator João Figueiredo. Her defiance symbolized growing resistance to authoritarian rule. Brazil transitioned to democracy within years. The child's courage represented popular rejection of dictatorship and desire for freedom throughout Latin America. Manhattan, New York, 1993. Donald Trump, his children Eric and Ivanka, and Jeffrey Epstein attend the opening of the Harley-Davidson Cafe. Trump's association with convicted sex offender Epstein would later generate controversy and scrutiny. Their relationship ended before Epstein's 2008 conviction. Military position: World War I Austro-Hungarian soldiers wearing gas masks play cards in their position. Chemical weapons required constant protective equipment readiness. Card games provided entertainment during lulls in fighting. Soldiers maintained morale through camaraderie despite trench warfare's horrific conditions and constant danger. Sibuyan Sea, Philippines, October 1944. The Japanese battleship Musashi evades bombs from American aircraft. The massive warship was eventually sunk after sustained aerial attack, taking over 1,000 crew to the bottom. Musashi represented Japan's naval might before air power rendered battleships obsolete. Austria, 1934. Nazi fanatic Otto Planeta is escorted from court after being sentenced to death for his role in the July Putsch. Convicted of murdering Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss, Planeta expected release. He was executed by hanging just 3 hours after sentencing, demonstrating swift Austrian justice. Isonzo Front, Italy. World War I officers relax in a shelter during the brutal Italian Austro-Hungarian campaign. 12 Isonzo battles resulted in enormous casualties for minimal gains. Brief respites from combat allowed soldiers to rest. The grinding warfare wore down both armies throughout the prolonged campaign. Amsterdam, Netherlands, 1969. John Lennon and Yoko Ono wait for the maid to make the bed so they can continue their bed-in protest against war. The couple's unconventional activism attracted global media attention. Their peace campaign used celebrity status promoting non-violence during Vietnam War. New York City, circa 1974-1976. Jeffrey Epstein poses during his brief stint as a physics and math teacher at the Dalton School. The position launched his career among wealthy elites. Epstein later became a financier and convicted sex offender who died in jail in 2019. Poland, date uncertain. A view shows the village of Zabai Rog from Lake Zabi. The peaceful landscape conceals the region's turbulent history under German, then Soviet, then Polish control. Such areas witnessed enormous upheaval throughout the 20th century as borders shifted and populations were displaced. West Virginia, date uncertain. Hassel Adkins, eccentric rockabilly musician known for songs like No More Hot Dogs and Lonely Is My Name, poses with his guitar. The one-man band recorded primitive rock and roll on homemade equipment. Adkins became a cult figure among outsider music enthusiasts. Mongolia, 1913. A Mongolian hunter poses with his horse in this autochrome color photograph. This breed has existed since Genghis Khan's time and almost became extinct. Traditional nomadic culture persisted despite modernization pressures. Early color photography preserved disappearing ways of life throughout Central Asia. Stockholm, Sweden, June 1958. 17-year-old Pelé celebrates as Brazil won its first FIFA World Cup against Sweden, scoring 5-2 with 2 goals by Pelé. The youngest player to score in a World Cup final, Pelé became football's greatest legend across a remarkable career. Hollywood, 1930s. Old Hollywood stars Cary Grant and Randolph Scott posed together during their well-documented cohabitation. The two leading men lived together for years, sparking speculation about their relationship. Both maintained successful careers as romantic leading men throughout Hollywood's golden age. Poland, 1928. Polish leader Józef Pilsudski poses with his wife Aleksandra and their daughters. Pilsudski led Poland to independence and dominated interwar politics through authoritarian rule. His legacy remains controversial. Poland faced invasion from both Nazi Germany and Soviet Union 11 years after this photograph. Gvardeysk, Russia, date uncertain. The Schwarzer Adler Hotel stands in the city formerly known as Tapiau. German architecture remained after the territory became Soviet Kaliningrad Oblast. Former East Prussia was completely transformed, with German population expelled and replaced by Soviet settlers after World War II. West Orange, New Jersey, February 1893. Construction of Thomas Edison's movie studio, the world's first, is completed. The Black Maria rotating building allowed natural light filming. Edison's laboratory complex pioneered motion picture technology. Early cinema was born in this innovative facility, transforming entertainment forever. England, 1770–1809. Daniel Lambert was famous for his large weight, likely from a genetic condition. Despite his size, he was an avid swimmer, hunter, and fisher, described as affable and polite. Lambert demonstrated that physical appearance didn't determine character or capability throughout his remarkable life. California, March 1942. A Japanese American unfurls a banner declaring loyalty the day after Pearl Harbor. Photographer Dorothea Lange captured this moment before internment. Despite such demonstrations, the man was detained. Over 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated during the war's hysteria. Delaware, 1977. Linda becomes the first black woman to complete Delaware Army Officer Candidate School on World Cancer Day. Her pioneering achievement broke barriers in military service. Such groundbreaking accomplishments opened doors for future generations. She represents courage both on the battlefield and fighting cancer. United States, 1956. Elvis Presley poses with his Lincoln Continental. The king of rock and roll enjoyed flashy automobiles matching his flamboyant style. Elvis revolutionized American popular music and youth culture. His rise from poverty to superstardom embodied the American dream before his tragic death. Nevada, 1961. Marilyn Monroe chats with a little girl on the Misfits set, with Montgomery Clift visible in back. The film was Monroe's last completed work. Both stars struggled with personal demons. Monroe died the following year. Clift suffered from addiction. The troubled production reflected their deteriorating conditions. Allenstunner Zeitung newspaper, Olsztyn, February 1943. The German newspaper reports the surrender of the Sixth Army in Stalingrad. The catastrophic defeat marked a turning point in World War II. Over 90,000 German soldiers surrendered. Few survived Soviet captivity. The disaster shattered German invincibility myth. Givigny, France, circa 1915–1920. Claude Monet sits in his house at Givigny, where he created his famous water lily paintings. The Impressionist master lived there from 1883 until his death in 1926. His gardens became the subject of his most celebrated works, revolutionizing art. Last Stop Diner, 1997 and 2016. The diner from the movie Nothing to Lose appears photographed then and now. Film locations become pilgrimage sites for fans. The comparison shows how locations change over time. Such documentation preserves cinematic history, connecting movies to real places across decades. Mexico, 1962. Luis Buñuel's surrealist film, The Exterminating Angel, challenges bourgeois society with its tale of dinner party guests mysteriously unable to leave. The Spanish director's masterpiece critiqued social conventions through absurdist situations. Buñuel's surrealism influenced generations of filmmakers exploring human irrationality. New York City, February 1926. Broadway appears toward 47th Street in the heart of Manhattan's theater district. Times Square bustled with entertainment venues, restaurants, and nightlife. The Roaring Twenties saw Broadway's golden age. Prohibition-era New York epitomized jazz age glamour and excess before the Depression.